Picture this. A city best known for the Alamo suddenly becomes the epicenter of basketball excellence. Not Los Angeles glitz, not New York money, just blue-collar San Antonio humming on barbecue smoke and military drills. For 2 decades, the Spurs didn't just win. They wrote a manual on how to stay great when everyone else ages out or cashes out. And just when the story felt over, a French-speaking skyscraper with an 8-foot wingspan walked through the door. How did we get here, and what thunderbolt is about to strike next? Let's dive into the Spurs Way. Before the banners, there was a carnival. In 1973, the Dallas Chaparrals limped south, rebranding as the Spurs and unpacking an ABA playbook stuffed with psychedelic offense and a mascot wielding a 6-shooter. George Iceman Gervin floated finger rolls so silky they melted shot clocks. And suddenly, a 15,000-seat arena felt like a raucous roadhouse every spring. They never won a title in that era, but they learned something more useful. A small market can roar louder than its market share, if the product is thrilling and the fans feel ownership. But thrills without structure only last so long. Losing big sometimes buys you a lifeboat, and in '87, that lifeboat stood 7-1, saluted, and could knock down mid-range bank shots like free throws. David Robinson served 2 years in the Navy, then detonated onto the league with a 35-win spike, the greatest single-season turnaround anyone had ever seen. Regular seasons turned into parades of 60-point blowouts, yet come May, the Spurs kept running into dream-shaking big men, Rodman drama, and coaching panic. Robinson captured MVPs, defensive awards, even a scoring crown, but no rings. San Antonio had the superstar, yet still lacked the soul of a dynasty. And then the basketball gods prescribed pain as the cure. The 1996-97 season was a wreck. Robinson broke his foot, Chuck Person's back gave out, and the team won just 20 games. General manager Greg Popovich fired the head coach, then appointed himself, tanked gracefully, and flew to St. Croix for a 3-day conversation with a lanky swimmer who preferred poetry to trash talk. On the sand, Tim Duncan and Pop barely spoke X's and O's. They spoke about mothers, loyalty, and finding joy in boredom. 3 months later, Duncan shook David Stern's hand, and the Twin Towers officially rose. 2 years after that, during a lockout that shrank the schedule to 50 games, the Spurs crushed everyone in their path and hoisted their first Larry O'Brien trophy. Culture meet hardware. But Pop wasn't interested in building statues. He wanted a conveyor belt. In 2001, the Spurs drafted an unknown French kid named Tony Parker with pick 28. In 2002, an Argentinian whirlwind named Manu Ginobili finally crossed the Atlantic as pick 57. Both were skinny, both were fearless, and both thought passes should arrive a split second before opponents realized they'd been fooled. Add Bruce Bowen patrolling wings like a bouncer at last call, and the roster evolved into a symphony. Duncan's zen, Parker's turbo spin, Manu's jazz improvisation. Championships followed in '03, '05, and '07, each secured by the same silent principles: defend, share, outthink, never showboat. When the league zigged toward isolation hero ball, the Spurs zagged toward geometry. Find a 45-degree angle, hit the corner 3, sprint back on D. Opponents started calling them the program, because beating them felt like taking a final exam you hadn't studied for. Yet every machine, no matter how precise, eventually needs an upgrade. By 2014, Duncan's knees squeaked, Parker's mileage ticked up, and Ginobili's bald spot glistened under the big lights. Pop's answer? Play faster, pass quicker, rest harder. He hacked the schedule, sitting stars on random Tuesdays and absorbing league fines like parking tickets. Come June, the payoff was art. Ball whipping corner to corner, Boris Diaw firing cross-court lasers, Kawhi Leonard tiptoeing baseline for thunder dunks. The Miami Heat, powered by peak LeBron, looked exhausted chasing ghosts. San Antonio shot 47% from deep and closed the series in 5. Commentators who once called the Spurs boring suddenly compared them to Barcelona football, to jazz ensembles, to liquid mathematics. But beauty can fracture when trust evaporates. Game 1 of the 2017 West Finals, the Spurs led the 73-win Warriors by 21 when Zaza Pachulia slid under Kawhi's landing foot. His ankle turned, and so did franchise history. Leonard's camp claimed the team rushed his recovery. Pop's side insisted they were transparent. The standoff went silent, then nuclear. Kawhi logged 9 games the next year and was shipped to Toronto for a package that screamed, better than nothing. Suddenly, the longest dynasty alive looked mortal. Fans braced for Popovich's retirement speech. Instead, July 2023 arrived with a Woj bomb. Pop inked a 5-year, $80 million extension. Basketball's Yoda had chosen more battles. The question became, who would be his next Skywalker? Enter a 7'4" prodigy from suburban Paris. Most franchises never draft a transformative big man. San Antonio drafted 2. In 2023, every ping-pong ball behaved, and Victor Wembanyama stepped into South Texas wearing a suit that barely fit inside his own highlight packages. By April, he'd averaged 21, 10, 4, speared 3 blocks a night, and stitched Rookie of the Year onto his resume. Pop, never one to waste fresh clay, surrounded him with high IQ youngsters. Devin Vassell's flamethrower jumper, Jeremy Sohan's Swiss Army defense, and by 2025 the pipeline added lottery guards Dylan Harper and Carter Bryant, plus steady vet Harrison Barnes. Suddenly practice courts echoed with multiple languages again, just like 2003. The fan base, spoiled by rings yet starved for relevance, could feel the tremor of possibility. Was the clock winding backward? Legacy, meet the possibility of reincarnation. Between 1998 and 2019, the Spurs won 50-plus games an absurd 18 times and missed the playoffs once. They collected 5 championships, carved a style so selfless it inspired youth coaches across continents, and proved that patience and curiosity beat payroll every single time. Today, Popovich still preaches the same sermon. Good shots become great shots, ego gets parked at the door, but now he delivers it through a translator who speaks French, Gen Z memes, and maybe a little extraterrestrial. Will Wembanyama become Duncan 2.0? Will Harper morph into the next Parker and Bryant into a winged Manu? No crystal ball can say. But history whispers that when the Spurs align culture with talent, something inevitable happens. The league scrambles to catch up. So the next time you scroll past a Spurs box score in January, remember this: dynasties aren't born under bright lights. They're forged quietly, in draft rooms, on South Texas back roads, and, sometimes, on a lonely beach where a coach asks a college kid about life instead of pick and rolls. Keep watching, because Chapter 2 of the longest dynasty in NBA history is already being written, and the plot twist might just eclipse everything we thought we knew about greatness. Stick around because the story's final buzzer hasn't even started its countdown.